Time's up, Admiral.
Here it comes.
Chevron 1, coded.
For my ally is the Force, and the powerful ally it is. Life creates it, makes it grow.
You failed, Your Highness. I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Cry hammer, and let's set the tongues of war.
Chevron 2 is coded.
Conan, what is best in life? Crush your enemies, see them driven before you, to hear the lamentation of your women.
It's all in the reflexes.
Paul also said you're heavy into martial arts, Tai Chi and all that killer stuff.
I suppose we have to register you as a lethal weapon.
Chevron 3 encoded.
And somebody ought to belt you in the mouth. But I won't. I won't. The hell I will.
Chevron 4 encoded.
Do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
Chevron 5 encoded.
You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Chevron 6 encoded.
Not for while you can, monk boy.
Great Scott! Back off, man. I'm a scientist.
You shall not pass! I thought I'd die fighting side by side with Alf.
What about side by side with a friend?
A day may come when the courage of men fails, when we forsake our friends and break all bonds of fellowship. But it is not this day.
Chevron 7 is locked.
No, I didn't almost hit end stream a second ago when I was adjusting my sidebar. It didn't happen. Not at all.
You'd never do that twice in a row.
No. Hail it out, everybody. Welcome to Saturday Night Drive-In, where we take a break and talk movies. We have fun discussions, whether we like these movies or not. No, that's not foreshadowing, though. That isn't. No, it is. No, seriously, it's not. It's not. Anyway, hi, Jed. I'm weak on transition still from last week. I got nothing.
Well, it's great to be here back for Saturday Night Drive-In. I think we're going to have a great discussion this evening because this is a film that I love. This is one that I saw once as a kid, and back when I was a kid, I didn't like old movies. I didn't like black and white. I didn't like anything classic because I was a little dickhead, apparently. But this film, it spoke to me as a kid. I was like 9 when I watched it, and it still felt grandiose, huge in scale, and intriguing. As a kid, I was scared of Captain Nemo, and now as an adult revisiting it, seeing the complexity of Nemo.
Oh, we're gonna have discussion. I mean, all right. Here's the thing. I haven't seen this movie since I was a little kid. Honestly, I was single digits. Honestly, the last time I saw this version of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. So it's been a long time for me. So now I remember chunks of it, but I know the story though, because we're going to talk about the movie, but I'm going to be more interested during this to talk about Jules Verne, because that undeniably we will talk about the genius of Jules Verne, because that to me is the true part of the true discussion. Is because Jules Verne so ahead of his time when it comes to science fiction and fantasy. So far ahead of his time. This was written in the 1870s. Jules Verne was thinking about submarines this was his first book, the 1870s, followed up by the glorious Around the World in 80 Days, which if we ever do that, I recommend we do. I have it. It's the miniseries version starring Pierce Brosnan. From in 1989.
I have not seen that version.
Oh,
the only version
excellent.
I've seen is the Jackie Chan one, and that one's all right.
Oh, no. The Pierce Brosnan version is very book accurate, and it's got a who's who from 1980s television stars in it. Everybody making cameos left and right. It's fantastic.
I would love to watch that
It's-
because you're
it's-
100% right. Jules Verne was the visionary. He's credited as creating the science fiction genre. Fantasy already existed at this point, but he took something
Yeah.
that no one else had done before. And like you were saying, he predicted a lot of real science that wasn't even thought of at the time, like submarines, like some of the prehistoric work he did in Journey to the Center of the Earth, although we obviously know the Earth isn't hollow. But he did great work extrapolating realistic views of the future and future technology. It's fascinating. I owe him a lot, just like every other science fiction writer and science fiction enjoyer out there, because he made it popular. He made it great. And this film, I think, follows in that trend because science fiction wasn't a huge genre in Hollywood either. Of course, there were ones like the early silent films. There was From the Earth to the Moon. So there were still science fiction films
That's
out
so
there.
goofy.
It's very goofy. This, I think, actually helped science fiction as a genre in Hollywood as well. So both the book and the movie making significant impacts into my favorite genre. So it holds a special place for me from its place in history as much as the quality of the story itself.
And this is 1954. And that means this is Disney still in its infancy. But they had enough power and technology as a film studio working with Buena Vista to put it out in color, in Technicolor. This is one of those early first color movies because we're only a few years removed from movies just being black and white in theaters. This was a very and with their special effects that they put into this, so it was another talking about subjectively. This was also a pioneer of movies right now too, and you had very very powerful casting with I forget his name, Mason, who played Nemo, and then of course Kirk Douglas, who's already a megastar at this point, a man's man. Now, whether or not Kirk Douglas is a good casting for this one, I don't know. I have my issue. Let's put it on the table. I have my issues with this movie as an adaptation. I do. It's mostly from a production value and objective stance. Although I do have some questions about the story. Can you tell me this now? Is this how accurate is this for the book? Because I've actually never read the book. So
I read the book once when I was a kid and don't remember it a whole lot, so I wouldn't be able to make any definitive statements about its accuracy. This movie I know way more.
For the simple point of at the end, and we're going to jump ahead. Oh, boo-hoo! The movies came out in the 50s. This book's been out for almost 200 years. So cry me a river if I spoil this for you. At the end, the movie portrays Nemo as dying. Problem is, Captain Nemo reappears in his following book, Mysterious Island, an older Nemo. Have you ever seen or read Mysterious Island?
I haven't. No. The only thing I know about Mysterious Island comes from the god awful Rock movie from about 15 years ago.
There's a good miniseries where Patrick Stewart plays an older Nemo.
Ooh.
It's a good miniseries. Or is it a one-shotter? I don't remember. It's been a long time. But Nemo lives. So I'm not so sure about the ending with this in accurate the book. I'm sure somebody in the chat will maybe fill in the blanks on that one.
There are different things that you can just feel aren't accurate. As much as I don't know the book, I feel like Kirk Douglas's character was expanded. That role was expanded a ton for the movie. It just
he was
feels like it
Disney-fied.
doesn't fit.
It's an early version of Disneyfication where he's singing, he's dancing. Yes, he's a rough and tough Rumble, likes the ladies kind of man, but the whole singing and the thing is like,
that's one of my regrets for the film is I get him singing in that moment because he's trying to keep them morale. They're about to go home. They're excited, but make it a sea shanty. Don't make it Broadway music. But it is a good tune. I do find it catchy.
All right. So this was your week. So where do you want to go with this first?
Well, we can just dive into the overall plot. So yeah, this movie came out in 1954. And like you said, it's already impressive enough that it is in color. But the technical aspects of it, the production design, the pioneering that they did for underwater filmography is just incredible. But the story follows a French professor who finds himself in San Francisco trying to make it across the Pacific Ocean to do some research in Japan and Asia. But there's a monster in the ocean hunting ships, and it's too dangerous to go. Voyages keep getting canceled. And the US government comes to him and says, hey, you're a professor. We're hunting this monster. Your expertise kind of aligned with this. Would you like to join our expedition and help us figure out what this monster is? If nothing else, to disprove it so people aren't scared anymore. They go on this adventure. It doesn't really pan out until the very end when they come across the Nautilus, a submarine, an impressive submarine for the era, and the professor, his assistant, and one of the sailors get captured by Captain Nemo of the Nautilus, and they go on this adventure together as the professor starts to understand the type of man Nemo is, why he's doing what he's doing, why he's waging this private war against the slave trade in the Pacific, and it ultimately culminates in the Nautilus getting destroyed, Captain Nemo dying, assumedly because the Nautilus gets destroyed if nothing else. But luckily, the professor and his assistant and the sailor are able to get onto the rowboat, and we don't know their fates because he didn't get his journal at the end. It's not like that was the publication like in the original story. So their ending is ambiguous. They're just stuck in the rowboat. They're close enough to shore. They're close enough that it's assumed that they survived, but we never actually know if the professor makes it home. And we definitely don't know if he tells the truth about the situation because, as he says, one of his last lines in the movie, perhaps you did the world a favor making it so I don't retrieve my journal.
Yeah, because the whole thing is Nemo believed that with the right emissaries, the whole reason he allowed at first the professor to survive their initial encounter with the test was the measure of his man, but also he needed an emissary to connect him to the rest of the world. And whether or not he would divulge his wondrous technologies, his literal, in some cases, 20th century technology that he had. Because remember, we are still in the 19th century. We are at the latter ages, the latter half of the 19th century. When this book is written, we're only literally about less than 10 years removed from the American Civil War, which means the most advanced naval vessel they have is steam powered. They've made ironclads, but ironclads back in the day, they were shoreborne. They didn't go farther out. They didn't go very far out to sea. So yes, there was steam power ships as we see in this movie, but the advancement of naval technology wasn't this. So the idea that we have a submarine out there is just true. Now we must say that in 1870, Jules Verne, or we'll say 1860s, because of course he wrote this in late 1860s and published it in 1870.
Right.
Of course, he would not know the science of deep sea diving because he does not account for any the differences in pressure and how you have to descend a certain amount before you ascend. So none of that is in there, but you cannot fault the man. The science isn't there, so that's fine.
He's accurate to the known science of the era because not a whole lot of people had done deep sea diving like this up to this point. But there are things that the film at least gets accurate. I don't know if it's in the books, but in the transition room where they put on their scuba gear, go through that tunnel, you can see the sailors in the background increasing the water pressure in the room to keep the water at bay. And so there are aspects of that are way more accurate than they needed to be. They could have just.
But then at one point he says we're down 5,000 meters. A submarine of that construction, that thing would have gotten crushed at 5,000 meters. It would have been just done. So there's no way. And also, I don't think he understood just how deep the ocean is at that where they probably were. So we forgive Jules Verne because he was writing science fiction, science fantasy. And he made these leaps and bounds of, like you said earlier, of putting these dots together that we could do this with the right things. Of course, we never know exactly what the power source of the Nautilus is in the movie. They never quite. It looks like it's nuclear power, but we don't know.
Yeah, we don't know exactly. I think the film at least implies that it's a nuclear reactor or nuclear engine, but something beyond our understanding. And that was kind of the point, I think, is that this is advanced technology that seems realistic, and that was the goal. And I feel like that goal was accomplished. But I don't judge Jules Verne or this movie for having inaccurate science because it's the same conversation we had with John Carter. Is with the information that they had on hand, they came up with a vibrant, interesting world that fit with their known laws of science. And I just hope that someday when we advance science even more in the coming centuries, that my work is looked upon in the same way. So a writer can only do what he can with the tools he has available, and Jules Verne just masterfully used the tools at hand.
Exactly. I cannot disagree on that. I mean, he almost got undersea scuba diving correct. You can't quite walk around the way they did, but it was close enough with air tanks and that. And this is the 1950s, so we're past the era. Submarines do exist at this point. We're past World War I and World War II, where submarine warfare was a real thing. But those are diesel. They were diesel engines, completely different than whatever the Nautilus was. So we forgive Jules for that, but I just wanted to make sure. I wanted to get that out of the way. That
of course
he gets it wrong, but we're not. It's not a strike. It's not a red mark. It's nothing. It is acceptable because it's 1870. He is speculating, just like you said. We speculate about space travel. We cannot confirm what advanced space travel will really look like until we get there. With, as he said, a power source to really make it happen. And of course, we did it in real life with just diesel oil, but he created what looks like a nuclear reaction of some sort. Some massively combustible thing that is not oil. We know it's not oil.
Definitely not oil. It is still hydraulic driven or whatever. Like it's an electric motor that they use, at least to power the internal electrics. But yeah, it's fascinating. I think it's pretty realistic, even if we don't have the correct definitions of it.
Yeah. So all right. So let's talk about what is good about this before I give what never really what got me.
Oh, can we talk about what was just dropped in the chat first real quick?
I see that. Yeah.
This is really cool. So apparently the first nuclear-powered submarine was the USS Nautilus, which was commissioned by the U.S. Navy on September 3rd, 1954. So the same year that this movie came out.
That's obviously homage. They did that on purpose. Yeah.
That's great. And naming it the Nautilus is a great nod.
Yeah, I mean, this is the 50s, so nuclear power does exist.
Right.
Or they had just started messing around with it as a power source other than a militarized source. So that is cool, though. That's clearly just paying respect to that. It's like, yeah, let's just name it the Nautilus. Hey, what the hell?
I love when pop culture is inspired by science and then science is inspired by pop culture. There's actually a really cool one going on right now called TARS, which is named after the robot in Interstellar. There was an idea in Interstellar that became a real life technical phenomenon that's actually going to be constructed soon. So that symbiotic relationship is a fascinating one to me.
All right, so let's talk about the performances then, as it were. So this excellent cast. They all perform magnificently. I do feel, though, I will go back to it. I feel like as great as Kirk Douglas is, I feel like it's a little over the top with his character. It's just a little bit, because here's the thing. And I guess we'll go, because we're talking performance characters. I'm going to say this. I asked this question. Is Captain Nemo a villain?
Oh, we want to jump into Nemo?
Let's go right. Everybody else is surface. Let's go right to the meat of this thing. Is Captain Nemo a villain?
I find it very complicated, but I would say no. He's a fascinating character who's gone through so much, and I don't fault him for any of the decisions he made. He's a genius who was used and abused by evil men, who had his family robbed from him, and even as he was being called murderer for attacking pirates or defending himself from the warship at the beginning of the film, he stands firm in his commitments where these men do horrible things. I'm saving thousands of lives. And that is the math of war. That is the algebra that every war general needs to come up with and justify to themselves and to the people who which they're fighting the war on the behalf of. In World War II, we had to make that decision. We had to make that math. That is, I think it's in part, at least, can be seen as a prediction of the atomic bombs at Hiroshima and Nagasaki, because that is a terrible math equation. Yes, would more people have died if we continued?
Millions
Likely
would have died on both sides.
Do you kill thousands or allow millions to die?
Yeah.
And that is the equation that he was wrestling with, and he came to the best solution that he could and tried to stick with that decision. In wartime, no one would call Nemo a villain. No one would call him a monster. If he was bearing the flag of the United States and fighting in World War II, every decision he made, every act he did would not be seen as villainous or murderous. It's the context in which he's operating for himself that gives him that edge that make people believe he's a villain. So I don't think that little of a context makes a difference when it's still the same perceived evil that he's facing. So I would absolutely not call him a villain.
I agree
Makes
with you.
mistakes, absolutely. Does wrong, absolutely, but not a villain.
I agree with you 100%. I feel the film tries to paint him as a villain because this is a Disney movie, and they try to paint Kirk Douglas's questionable man as a hero and the professor as an observer. And Nemo isn't a villain because let's take a look what he's doing here. What nation is he fighting? He's not fighting a nation.
Nope.
He's fighting what he accurately describes as merchants of death, arms dealers. He's fighting people who are pirates. He's fighting people who are slave traders. He's not fighting nations. Because, perfect example, like you said, when that American warship encounters the Nautilus, he wounds the ship enough that it's listing, but it's not sinking, and it's going to limp away. It's going to limp away and make port somewhere to get repairs, and its crew's going to survive. We've seen what he does when he's attacking a ship he wants to destroy. He goes right through it with the Nautilus. Ramming speed. No torpedoes. Jules Verne didn't figure that part out. Just rams the hell out of him. And especially in that scene where we're actually on the bridge of the Nautilus, and he's at the wheel, and it gives you that intensity of him going at the ship. The movie's working really hard to make him a villain, but he's not. He's fighting people who are providing murder, who are providing destruction, who are actively trading in human lives. Human trafficking, we'll give the word that we use today, human trafficking. He's actively fighting against that, and so is his crew, who all come with him from being slaves. So he is not a villain. That is a thing that I think a lot of people, if you don't watch the movie, read the book, or watch any adaptation, you come away thinking that you think Captain Nemo, like, oh, he's a villain. Captain Nemo's a villain. No, he's not a villain. He is justified, in my opinion, in every single action he takes. Does he sound a little crazy? Yes, because you know why he sounds crazy? Because he's like the rest of us. Leave me the fuck alone, world. Leave me alone.
He's impassioned, enraged, and wants to be left alone. Those can seem like, say, psychotic tendencies, but given what he's been through, he's still maintaining a reasonable justification for his actions. He's clearly enjoying taking out that slaver ship that we see at the end of the second act.
He's relishing his revenge, and
he's angry.
And I'm not one of these people who's going to write a story and say, "Oh no, seeking revenge is not good. It damages some." No, seeking revenge is justifiable. And a man like that, they murdered his family.
They're going to murder more families.
Yes. So if he may not be getting the exact men that got him, but he's destroying their organization bit by bit. Yeah, I'm sorry. That's going to feel good. You murder my family, it's going to make me feel good. I hate that storytelling trope. Revenge doesn't serve anything. Is it going to bring it back? It's not going to make you feel better. And then the hero has to realize, oh, the revenge doesn't make me feel better. No, I'm a full believer. The revenge is going to make you feel better. If some mother effer murdered your wife, your brother, your father, your mother, your family, any of them, remember that? Murdered your kids, and you get your hands on them and you get it. No, it's going to feel good. It's going to guarantee. I don't believe that for a goddamn second. Now, could one go overboard? Collateral damage? Sure. Then there's a story to be told. Have you taken your revenge too far? But like you said, I don't think in this case, just to compare it again to Nagasaki and Hiroshima, I don't think there are any innocents involved in this. Because if you're working for the slavers, if you're a part of that organization, you know damn well what you're a part of. So I don't see him as a villain, and I will. I don't think Jules Verne saw him as a villain either.
I don't think so either, because yeah, especially in that era, there is a strong belief of good men who do hard things and make themselves into monsters for the greater good. That was a
Mhm.
common trope of the era, and I feel like Nemo falls into that category. He's my favorite part of 20,000 Leagues Under
Well,
the
he
Sea.
is 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
He is,
He
yes, to
is.
be
He is.
fair. Like even
That
the
and the Nautilus. Him and the
the
Nautilus.
Nautilus even takes a back seat to me for
Mm-hmm.
Nemo's character. I find him fascinating, and his character work I think is flawless. I don't really care much about any of the other characters in the
No,
books
neither
or
do
the
I.
movie. It's all about him creating this version of himself and this way of life. Their way of life is fascinating, living wholly off the sea because it's a filter. The ocean is a filter from the evil that men do. Is a really fascinating concept. Trying to live wholly off the ocean floor, making it as comfortable as possible, of course, but finding a way to live away from everything else could be seen as a metaphor for space travel as well.
Mhm.
Trying to
I
escape.
I gotta tell you though, I'm not eating urchin stew. I ain't eating, I ain't eating urchin stew. That's not happening. I mean, all right. Now I can tolerate the steak. I can tolerate that. That's there's meat there, but urchins, barnacle stews. That shit's disgusting, man. I've seen barnacles. What? Oh, I don't know, man. No,
I
no.
mean, it looks like it's replicating the appearance of normal food, and according to them, it all tasted good. So I'd be all right
Squid
with it.
milk. Are you drinking the squid milk? I'm not. I
That
don't know.
scene was pretty funny.
Yeah.
They're
But
gonna go hunting.
hunting. Yeah.
I love that hunting sequence. That was great.
It is good, but it's still very Disney. They're relying on the ambiance because remember, this is a family film. It's made for families. This is 1950s Disney. They're not making it for children or anything. It's literally it was made so that the whole family could watch this stuff. So I would say that honestly, they could have cut 20-30 minutes out of this movie, I think.
Absolutely.
At a 2 hour, 3 minutes runtime, they could have cut 23 minutes out of it. You didn't need some of it because, like you said, the most interesting thing in this movie is Nemo. When we're not on Nemo, the movie drags.
And
because
that is what I see as the biggest flaw in this movie. You got a big star attached to it in Kirk Douglas, and I feel like they thought they were obligated to expand his character and make him the center of attention. I think he's the worst part of the film. Not in such a way that he's like necessarily bad or unwatchable or anything like that. Just he's uninteresting compared
his character
to Nemo.
isn't likable at all.
I don't find him that likable. His most likable stuff is when he's interacting with the sea lion. That thing was I love that sea lion.
He's not a hero. He's just a dude. He's just a dude. And and I know he's supposed to say, oh, he might be there because he's unscrupulous and he just wants his freedom and he's a prisoner and all that kind of stuff. But I'm more interested in the complexity of Nemo and his character and the professor to an extent as someone who is an intellectual who
he's a lens which to understand Nemo better.
Yeah.
And so I love the professor scenes. I think the professor did a great job with his performance. But Kurt, he has no story. He has no arc. He just kind of stumbles his way from scene to scene until he saves Nemo, which there is some great narrative meat there with Nemo grappling with this guy that I hate saved my life. There's still some great stuff there, but you didn't need to focus so much on him to accomplish the same thing.
And there's a problem the movie has. I cannot say if it's in the book or not, but how did Kirk Douglas's character get on the ship? Because last we saw he'd been carted off to jail starting a fight in the middle of the road.
Yeah, they never explained it. The assumption is because he's a harpooner, the military wanted an expert harpooner, and he was already there to make a deal. Like, hey, we'll get you out of prison.
True.
That's all headcanon, though.
But they didn't.
I don't think it's necessary.
The movie doesn't relay this information to us, and that is a failure of the movie. Once again, I had never read the book. They made us read all kinds of dumb shit in school. They should have had us reading Jules Verne.
They should have.
Instead of me read goddamn Catcher in the Rye, why couldn't we read 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea? Catcher in the Rye is a piece of shit. Jules Verne, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, all the Jules Verne's books are incredibly important to literature. Much more important than fucking Catcher in the Rye. So why couldn't I read that shit? I mean, I go from reading The Odyssey to Catcher in the fucking Rye. How's that for a back and forth? I read great art, and then I got to read dog shit about a psychopathic kid. fucking hate that book.
I've never read it, so I'm not
Oh,
sure.
you count yourself lucky. It's the great American novel, Adam. No, it isn't. It's a piece of shit. Piece of shit. Anyway.
I just feel like most of Kirk Douglas's scenes are an aside or just don't make as much sense. Like they want him to be involved in the film. Him getting into the rowboat, then staying attached to the warship while he throws his harpoon, then happens to fall in. Then
that
the
makes
professor
no sense.
happens to
That's
fall
coincidence. That go get in the longboat and throw your harpoon. What?
Just throw it from the side or lower the boat. It's not smart to lower the boat in that setting.
No.
Because it's not an actual whale. With a whale, it makes sense with the way that you go whaling with a harpoon.
I played Black Flag. I know how whaling works in a boat.
I did just pull that card. That is absolutely fair. But I can buy the professor falling out. He's not a sailor, unsteady on his feet, and then his assistant diving in after him. I don't consider that a coincidence. But the harpooner falling out as well, finding them in the big ocean, and all of that just... I don't find it believable, him being involved in the story.
We're not criticizing the character. We're criticizing the movie and its portrayal, I think. Once again, that is why I'm walking a fine line here with how I'm talking about this. I love the story. I love the genius of Jules Verne. What I'm questioning here is the somewhat Disneyfication of this. Now, there are other adaptations out there, which I've seen many over the years, and I can't really remember which one is which anymore. It's been a long time.
Well,
but
there's a brand new one out that we found out about.
Really?
Yeah, there's a Disney Plus TV show where they race and gender swap Nemo. And it's all in Spanish.
Well, that's modern day Disney. I mean, I may be talking harshly of this, but I'm going to give this a decent score at the end. I'm not giving this a shit score, but I am being critical because I feel like that, as I said, there's a lot of Disneyfication going on. And I do have a criticism of this. There is one major one. And this stems from me being from a kid, mind you. This is born from me as a kid watching this and having seen other versions. I am not the biggest fan of the Nautilus design in this movie.
The interior or the exterior?
The exterior. The exterior. Okay. Because also the interior is fine. Problem is the interior doesn't match the size of the exterior.
That's true. It seems way bigger on the inside.
It looks a lot. It ain't a fucking TARDIS.
I love the interior, the way that it's so classical Victorian, the bookshelf.
That's not a problem. It's the exterior. Ever since I was a kid, I was never a fan of the exterior design of the Nautilus. There's something about it that isn't appealing to me. And this might be heretical, but I will say when they made the movie League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, I liked that they made the Nautilus a real submarine. I liked that because that thing would look badass in that movie. That movie has all kinds of problems. Don't get me wrong. That movie is a disaster on wheels.
I've never seen that movie, but a lot of the exterior, it's too small. 100% agree with the exterior, but a lot of its stylistic choices were to
make it like a monster.
Encourage the myth that it was a monster. Even with the glowing eyes. The glowing eyes thing is purely scare tactic. That is just to fuck with the people on the boats. It's not necessary. It's not practical. But it kind of looks like a whale underwater. You can see the fish-like designs to it. So I understand where they're going with it, and I love it. I love the exterior design, but it is way too small. I can 100% agree that it's too small.
But this is based on a childhood impression that is carried over to my adulthood. That's what that is. Having seen other adaptations, I just don't like it. And like you said, it's bigger on the inside. It's not the TARDIS. His stateroom alone doesn't make sense with what
great and that window.
Yeah, but I mean, the interior is fantastic, and it's a proper interior. Especially there are stairs going up and down. It doesn't look that big when you get a look at it in the water.
Look like there's levels. Yeah,
where are there levels to this? So that's one of my problems with it. Is that I feel like Disney didn't take it seriously enough in the design. They just wanted to go with the monstrous idea of the Nautilus that Nemo intended, but not really scale to it. So that is a criticism, and that does reflect on my score because
that's fair.
But the interior is great. I love the interior. I love it because it looks great. A lot of attention to Victorian detail, just like you said.
Well, and at this time when they were making the movie, I can't imagine being on set and walking through the scene because it was a technical marvel at that time for every aspect of it. The model work, the underwater stuff, the interior stuff, it looks phenomenal. And it feels so different and real. Like I'm not getting lost in these corridors of sameness. Every set looks
Mhm.
unique, and it's got cool aspects like the electrical defense system that comes up
Yeah.
multiple times. It's very creative in the way that they use the ship. So yeah, I absolutely love the Nautilus, and one of my favorite scenes is actually near the beginning of the film when the professor and all of them first get aboard the Nautilus. He opens that port and he's just bathing in the view of the ocean, because at the time blue screens do exist, blue and green screens do exist, and it's obviously a version of that.
Yeah.
But the way that they integrate it into that scene is flawless. It looks incredible. And then you get cultural stuff as well. The underwater funeral, I think, is very interesting. The kind of go-to way to have a funeral in naval or space stories is just eject them into the ocean or space and have a nice ceremony. Those can be great, like Spock's ejection at the end of Wrath of Khan. Absolutely love it. But this took something unique and did something unique,
Yeah.
showcasing so many things, setting of things. And I can buy that everyone wanted to be at the funeral of their friend because, as we see in the film, this is a tight-knit crew who's been through a lot. These are brothers.
Yeah, and problem is though, there's more of them than looks like that ship could hold. Again,
From the exterior.
when you see the funeral, it looks like there's only about maybe a dozen of them out there.
Mhm.
But when they're all corralling them as they discover they're on board, there's like 20 or 30 of those dudes.
They're very inconsistent with the crew size. I will 100% agree with that.
Yeah. And but now to your point about the underwater funeral scene, that is an early indication of Nemo's belief system that the under the sea is his world, treating it like a land burial, yet with a kind of a sea motif to it, the barnacle shell-filled cross that they could put up there.
Which they would have had to put those out ahead of time.
Mhm.
It takes a little while for barnacles to latch onto something, so they knew they were going to have multiple funerals.
Yeah, so that is it's a great prelude to his speech about the sea providing everything, and he's
It's
not
character
wrong.
driven. It's not just cool. There's so much substance to every decision made.
And he's not wrong. He's not wrong. The sea can literally provide you with everything you need. Vegetables, protein.
I think the only real big hurdle would be drinking water, and if he can figure out some way to filter out enough
All right,
salt.
dude. If he's created
No, that's
the
what I
Nautilus,
mean. Like
he's created desalinization. He's figured that shit out.
No, I agree. I'm just saying that's
Yeah.
the one big hurdle to make it happen, and I can buy it because of his engine room. I
Yeah.
can buy that he's figured that out. Besides that, absolutely, you could live at the bottom of the ocean. The only other thing would be pressure, but they didn't really know the extent of that.
And clearly they have a home base, Volcania. They have a home base. They've probably
And that
got
place looks cool. I
they've
wish
got
we would have seen
supplies in
more of
there.
that factory.
Yeah, we're only there briefly. Because that was a very modern looking I swear I saw a satellite dish on that thing. I swear I saw a satellite dish when you look at that. But yeah, I'm sure they have supplies at Volcania that they come back for, and I'm sure he's figured out a decent. He's figured out a decent. What do you call it? Air system. Oh, hey, look at
We do
that.
see the air filtration system a little bit when the engines turn off, the air gets hard to breathe. And it's like, hey, the fans are kicking in. You'll be all right in a few minutes. They do think about that.
Hey, look at that. I didn't do anything. This is finally working. I didn't do anything. Finally decided to do that. I think I tried to make that work 6 months ago, and it finally decided to work. Yes, guys, send Stream Elements tips because I won't be taxed on that. So please send Stream Elements tips. That's a good way to do it. Anyway, so yeah, he's back to your point. He's figured out this shit. It all works. But the only thing is like no potatoes or anything like that, no starches. But point is, you can live off that. And yes, I know I said squid milk. I was making the joke. I know it was whale milk, sperm whale milk. I know it was that, but I said that earlier as a joke. I was being a jackass. Point is, anyway, thing is this though. His concept of peace beneath the sea. It's not a concept that people have walked away from. It's actually something that's been embraced more and more.
It's a beautiful dream.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. And at the time, his statements are completely true. if you escape and live beneath the surface, the nations, the world at that time, they can't touch you.
Even today, there wouldn't be a whole lot most people could
Oh,
do if you went deep enough.
There is still so much left to explore. He makes a statement at one point describing, you have no idea what these creatures look like here. We've explored this. That is absolutely true to this day. Remember, a large part of our world is underneath the water that we have yet to, because we don't have the technology to go that deep without that's crushing depths. We can explore that stuff.
We're constantly discovering new species.
Yeah, that have evolved in the pure black. All right, perfect point. Let's jump to honestly, probably the most famous scene of this movie, the giant squid attack. Architeuthis ducks, its actual name. I was into big squids for a while. There was a book there was a movie, there was a book called The Thing, or not The Thing, I forget it was called The Beast. Sorry, The Beast, that was written back in the 90s. I read it. They eventually made a crappy movie version of it, but it was a really good book about what would happen if a giant squid, a true one, not the ones that are like maybe just 12 feet tall. We're talking massive, like 20, 30 yards big, a true monster of the sea. What would happen if a squid attacked? Now, Architeuthis ducks. There have been the giant squid, there have been some documentaries of trying to hunt these things because they have evidence that these things can grow to be massive. They're not just a myth of the sea. They can be pretty fucking big, but those things are literally in the deepest, darkest parts of the ocean where only sperm whales go, because that's what sperm whales hunt. Sperm whales are the predator, the natural predator of Architeuthis ducks. And that's a pretty big squid they have attacked there. Those things do not come to the surface. They don't. So again, we forgive Jules Verne. He wanted to create a true sea monster aspect, and there have been notes forever about sea monsters, squids attacking ships. Legitimate, fine. But that is it's a fascinating thing. I don't know about the whole attacking near the eye part and the heart. I don't know about that.
And especially where the harpoon ended up didn't look like
and also here's the thing that, of course, I don't know if Jules Verne knew this, but they showed at some point that the guys had damages from being suction cupped, grabbed by the tentacles. Did you know that inside every suction cup of the squid are talons?
Ooh.
So when that thing grabs you, it's literally tearing you apart as it grabs you. That's how nasty these things are. So a lot of those, so like Nemo being grabbed, he should have been torn to shreds. He should have been torn to shreds by those things. But let's talk about first the story aspect of the thing. I think it's a fascinating scene to show that even Nemo, with all his technological advancement, still isn't capable of dealing with a monster of the sea. Nature can still humble him. I think that's an excellent part of it. Of course, also the setup for the rescue thing, which we talked about. But how do you feel about this scene?
I agree 100% where it's the sea is still too big and frightening for even Nemo, and the world isn't ready for this type of technology. He's not even ready for this type of technology, and it shows the majestic aspect of nature, and he needs to respect the giant squid and everything down there. So I think there's a lot of good character meat in it, especially with what it leads into with Kirk Douglas saving his life and wrestling with that gratitude. I think the squid looks incredible, though. The animatronic for it, especially when the tentacle gets into the ship and starts moving around, that looks flawless to me.
Yeah.
And that's a big cinema moment. Like, this feels like something you'd need to watch on the big screen. I can't imagine watching this in theaters for the first time when it came out. Just that sequence alone, let alone all the other underwater stuff. That's why I love that the tagline for this movie was the mightiest motion picture of them all. It feels apt for the era because of the squid, because of the Nautilus. But like you were saying, I'm not a big fan of spectacle without substance, and I feel like this sequence gave me a great amount of both. You've got character work, you've got the humbling aspect of, and even the professors, like, even how powerful Nemo is, the ocean is still mightier than he. God's creations are still mightier than he, and it ties together very well. I think this movie would suffer without it being involved. There are other things you could cut, but I would not cut the giant squid sequence.
No, I'm not saying cut it.
No, I know.
No. But it's the most famous thing with this. I remember when I was a kid, after seeing this movie, I ended up we went to Disney World, and there used to be a ride concerning this. And I remember
awesome.
them reenacting the scene with the squid around you. And it's great for a kid. It's great for a kid. You're like, wow, it's cool. Yeah, giant squid, they're reenacting the fight, and that's great. And you're right. Looking back on it, this is a marvel of special effects at the time, which is something Disney was good at. They were good at being pioneers with this stuff. So, fantastic scene. As I said, as you said, it has both the spectacle, but there is the substance, and that's why this is the genius of Jules Verne. That's why I said I'm more interested in talking about not so much the movie, but the genius of the source material, that Jules Verne is such a visionary and able to give us the layers of the storytelling here. We have an action-packed sequence, but there's so much more to it than just the action. There is, as we said, the humbling of the sea, and then, of course, the rescuing, which sets up Nemo's great line, "I wouldn't have saved him." And then that is a great line there. That is why the character that Kirk Douglas plays, he's still important, and the professor is important too. And why Nemo, as I'm not going to change my point in saying I think Nemo is right, but he has lost part of his humanity in his venture. His revenge is justified, but he has lost part of this, where he's lost what's the word I want? He has lost the respect for human life, because he is at that point where here's the point where you, as I said, you can't take revenge too far, where you're creating collateral damage and you are harming the world at large, not for the greater good, but for damage yourself. He's at that point where if you're not with me, you're against me. That's where he is at this point. And because Kirk Douglas's character is against him simply because he doesn't want to be there, that's enough to make him an enemy, and therefore deserving no reprieve. And when he says, "I would have let him die," that's where the professor says, "That's why he's a better man than you." Now, I'm not going to say that, because he was ready to steal from Nemo, and he was ready to do all kinds of horrible things equal to Nemo to get off that ship. He was ready to go ashore and F cannibal women. That's
cannibal women, and he showed no remorse for bringing the slavers to the island at the end.
Yeah,
zero remorse.
He is the one, and that's the thing.
He kills Nemo. It's his fault.
The movie's trying to represent that he is a hero for revealing the position of Vulcania, but it's not like you reveal it to the U.S. government or anything, who would be the closest thing to a positive force in this, that outside of that. No, he revealed it to the enemy, who would probably enslave him if they captured him.
And he got shot at by them. He should be like, oh, maybe just throwing this out to the wind wasn't the best idea. And it's still an accident, so it's not. I was being hyperbolic when saying it is his fault, but I wish that he would have shown some regret. His actions led to it. Some realizing, hey, maybe I did make some mistakes. Nothing like that. That's why I say he doesn't have an arc. No. He's too heavily focused on.
I'm throwing bottles. Look at me, yeah, dude. It's
as a small supporting character, his character does serve a purpose, like in the rescue scene or killing the squid scene, and even with the cannibals, there's some valuable stuff there. It's just there's way too much focus on him, in my opinion. Cutting out a half of his scenes would improve the movie, in my opinion.
Yeah, and sticking more with the professor, who is
I want to know more about the professor and his weird assistant who's older than him, his apprentice.
Well, that was also I never remember his name. Hold on.
I did like that actor, the apprentice. I felt like he did a great job in his sequences, and there were some comedy aspects of it, like when they were in the sunken ship together, that I love.
That was
weird that the apprentice looks
that
like
was Peter Lorre, who was as famous as Kirk Douglas. Peter Lorre was as famous. Oh yeah, he Maltese Falcon. He's very famous. Peter Lorre was a storied actor of the time, as much as Kirk Douglas and James Mason. point is, so he yes, much older than, but that he like Kirk Douglas, he was brought on for name recognition at the time. That's it. And a great character actor though at the time. He that his little thing, his style, that his voice, his tone, his tenor, that's what he was known for. Like, yes.
So he's great in the role.
Oh yeah, he's fantastic. But that Peter Lorre he was brought on for his name. Not so much if he fit the role. That was purely for name recognition and to promote the movie. Just like you're bringing on Kirk Douglas to get attention. Right. One of the most powerful masculine male entertainers of the time. And you're bringing, dude, he's fucking Spartacus. Come on. I think Spartacus came out after this though, but still. If I remember my dates correctly. Actually, no, now I gotta know. Spartacus movie. I gotta know what Spartacus came out. Spartacus spell.
I've never actually seen the original.
1960, yeah. Spartacus came out in 1960. He's not Spartacus yet. I knew he came out after that. But so he's already. Kirk Douglas had been in movies with John Wayne at this point. This he is top. He is top tier acting. So you bring him in. That's what's putting butts in seats. Which is
fair. Remember, this is the price to pay.
This is the era where a name on a poster or production will put butts in seats. People are going to go see a movie with Marilyn Monroe. They're going to go see a movie with John Wayne. They're going to go see a movie with Kirk Douglas. That's what they're going to do.
Back when celebrity meant something.
Back when the talent. Kirk Douglas, even though I think he's overacting in this movie, he's still Kirk Douglas, a phenomenal actor, a generational actor, 1,000 times better than his son at acting. I'll say that. Michael Douglas pales in comparison to his father when it comes to acting ability.
Michael's good at like one thing.
Yeah. And I was going to make a very rude and crass joke here, but I'm not going to. It concerns Catherine Zeta-Jones. Anyway, point is though, this was about name recognition mostly, I think, because he's popular, this and that, and you're going to get one of the most robust, manly men out there. Because listen, they had Kirk Douglas walking around with his shirt off, and that was purely for the female. They still knew what they knew what would butter their bread with that. The women are going to want to see him, and that's a fit man for that era right there. That is what a man in shape looked like. Of course, they were doing that thing. It's a very weird thing in the 40s, 50s, even into the 60s bit, where you couldn't show the belly button. So you notice his pants were hiked up over half his abdomen because
I noticed that in a lot of old movies. I thought that was just like the fashion of the era.
You were not allowed to show belly button. Go watch I Dream of Jeannie, the original I Dream of Jeannie. Barbara Eden could not show, as smoking hot as Barbara Eden was. She was the total goddamn package. I mean, dude, once it hits color, and she got her boob job. There was a definite increase in this as the seasons went on. Barbara Eden was smoking hot, but you never saw her belly button in the genie outfit, man. Never.
I'm sorry, but that's retarded. All right,
it was
belly
just
buttons. Not
it was
an
a perception.
Zone.
Remember, we're talking about not too far removed from Victorian era, where an ankle was too much. So. The levels of, listen, I think as much of a horn dog as I am, I think women dress too slutty these days. There's too much shown these days. But belly button, especially on a dude, by the 60s, of course, when he's Spartacus, they showed belly button. But in the 50s, you didn't see belly buttons, and it was a long time before women showed belly buttons. Go watch James Bond movies from the 60s. The bathing suits are not showing belly buttons.
This is a weird rabbit hole I didn't expect to go down.
By the 60s, men are on shoot because, again, I just mentioned James Bond and Dr. No. Sean Connery's walking around with that. But in the 50s, you couldn't show belly button. Everybody's pants are hiked up, half up their abdomen. It was just cultural.
I totally thought that was fashion because I've seen old photos where people just generally had their pants up a lot higher. But
that too. But when it came to being on screen, you could not show the belly button. It was considered too risque.
Dumb.
Too risque. Hey, different time. It
was a very different time.
Hey, man, a midriff can be sexy for men and women, I guess. Let's not go down that any further, okay? Anyway, all right. So we pretty much expounded on a lot of this right now. So, have anything else you want to throw in here?
Just want to add, there was a question put in the chat before we started, bets on if I would hate the movie or make fun of the production design because it looks like it's from the 50s. I thought this movie was from the 70s, all right? When I turned it on last night and saw 1954, I was fucking blown away. Even for the 70s, I think the production design is immaculate.
Yeah.
Of course, it doesn't hold up perfectly like a CGI movie of today, but it holds up more than good enough to feel believable.
Honestly, it's better than a CGI.
I think it feels more real. There's a tactile nature.
My suspension of disbelief is not broken.
100%.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
I think the production design is flawless. I get the Nautilus being too small. That is a legitimate concern with the production design. But just the technical prowess of this film, even if the script were garbage, I think this film deserves respect just
But the script is good.
The script is great.
Yeah, it's tight. The back and forth between Nemo and the professor, great. A little slow at times. You know, the pacing, the movie suffers from a pacing problem at times. But that's Disney still being that's the era of Disney. We're going to show off wildlife. We're going to show off nature. Because that was a thing that Walt is still very much alive when this movie decade. Walt believed in showing nature to children. He wanted children to appreciate nature. And this movie showcases undersea nature. So that's a pure Walt. And when I say Walt Disney, I'm saying Walt Disney, a man named Walt. That's his stamp on the movie right there. Him showing nature. And at the time, it's great. Now I feel like it's lingering a little too long because I'm not impressed by nature anymore. I guess I've seen enough of nature. I've been in that nature.
That's fair. At that time,
at that time, it's a spectacle. It's like, whoa, sharks and fishes under the sea. They're doing.
They had a shark fight in this movie.
Yeah,
and laser guns, and it looked good. The laser gun they don't really explain though.
No, but again,
it shows up once.
We pass on that. We're not going to deal with it. It's Jules Verne. Point is, but that though, it doesn't lose points for that for me because it was the time it was made to be a certain way. But I objectively, it does ruin the pacing of the movie a bit. To having them take so long to find the treasure chest with the thing and bring it back and leading to the shark attack, which is great. And then rowing to the island, going hunting for the undersea bounty, and that's Walt Disney wanting to portray nature, show the beauty of nature. So it works, but objectively, it does slow the pacing.
You could trim it down quite a bit.
Yeah, you could take a minute off here, a minute off there. You know, but it works. It still works. But that I have to be objective, and I have to say my point on that. But other than that, so I've got nothing left to say. I've said all my points, my positives and my negatives. So ready to score it?
I'm ready.
It's your week. You go first.
All right. So, yeah, like I've been saying throughout this stream, I think this film is incredible. I think it's aged great. At the time, it was spectacle. Now there's nostalgia and just loving a great old movie. These films can't be made anymore. Not because of political reasons or anything like that. I just don't think the talent exists. And even the worst aspects of this film, you see the talent there. I see Kirk Douglas's talent, even though I wish there was less of him in the film, or at least changing the direction of his character. It's not necessarily bad. And I miss when films could be the worst aspects aren't necessarily even bad. So this film, I think, is great from top down. Nemo's story is incredibly well written. I'm invested in his character, and he's so nuanced where we get to have discussions like, is he a villain or not? Where does he make his mistakes? And I've never thought about it until the stream when you specifically asked me, but the metaphor for future events that this film lays out with Nagasaki, Hiroshima, with space travel, with submarines, just all these metaphors that ties into the future that weren't intended at the time. That's the sign of a timeless story, is when you can pick things out of it and make them seamless metaphors for a current day, or at least long after events from when they initially took place. And I think we're still going to be watching this movie in 100 years, comparing it to real space travel. So I have to give this film a resounding 8.5 out of 10.
Okay, 8.5 out of 10. I'm not too far off from you on your score there. And I echo everything you said. I cannot say any better. My problems with this movie extend from some of the design choices, a little bit of the pacing. I feel there is overacting. Kirk Douglas is a much better actor than he's portrayed in this movie. And also, once again, I think that as an adaptation, I think it does lack a little bit in terms of getting things across. I think it does get Disney-fied. Even though this is early Disney, it still gets Disney-fied a little bit, which does drop points on of the seriousness. To me, what does carry this movie is the genius of Jules Verne. That I love the genius of him as a creator, an author, a man of vision, who saw these things, had such a grandiose idea of what could be, that he was able to put it on paper in the late 19th century. Whew, crazy, man. So, but then going back to my adaptation, I question this adaptation because, again, I would need to read the book to know the fact that they show Nemo dead. He is dead, D-E-D, dead on that ground. But I believe it's Jules Verne's third book, maybe fourth book, Mysterious Island. Nemo's alive, an older Nemo. The Nautilus still in one piece on Mysterious Island. And it's a good Patrick Stewart miniseries. We should go to that at one point. We should do that at one point because that's a good one because it's Patrick Stewart. Hey,
yeah,
that's like 90s prime Patrick Stewart. So that'd be good for that. So I'm gonna give it a solid 7 out of 10. It's a solid 7 out of 10. It's a good movie. All children should watch this for their first introduction to Jules Verne in 2015, and then watch other things and watch other stuff. But it's an excellent movie. It is still original, pure Disney. As I said, it exemplifies the vision of Walt Disney, integrating nature to show you the beauty of nature within the movie, which is why, as I said, it may, for me, cause some pacing problems, but I acknowledge I know what Walt was trying to do. He was trying to show kids respect nature. Here's the beauty of it. And that's why, even though it slows down the movie, it belongs in the movie. It should not be taken out. Trimmed a little bit, but not taken out. All right. With that said, next week, we're going to kind of stay in a realm where your villain might not exactly be your villain in this. I know Jed hasn't seen this, but this is actually a favorite movie of mine to watch because I love the character interplay. And we're going to have another, it's a great cast, another venerable actor in this cast. We're going to watch Other People's Money for next week, starring Danny DeVito, Penelope Ann Miller, and the venerable, the legendary Gregory Peck. And I think one of his final roles. So this is an early 90s movie. It's essentially about hostile takeover, stock market, buying, selling, proxy war. Great stuff where Danny DeVito is a Wall Street guy. He's a liquidator. He buys and sells, but he's the villain. Ask you that. This is a fun movie. This is a fun movie simply because I like these movies where you get a good look at how this stuff works. It intrigues me. Buying shares, this and stuff, this trying to take over. That stuff always intrigues me. So it's a great look at that. Also, Danny DeVito's fantastic. Penelope Ann Miller's great and hot. And Gregory Peck is Gregory freaking Peck. Masterful acting. The character play in this movie is great. I think you're going to enjoy this from a character perspective, and also because I know you like movies that try to tell you the villain is the villain, but he's not really the villain. I'm putting it out there now. So I think you're going to enjoy this one. I think we're going to have a good discussion next week about this. Anyway, so thank you everybody for joining us this week, and we hope you had a good time. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Links are in the description below, and we'll see you next time. Until then, everybody, take it easy.